Hello everyone! So it is the first of the month, which means it's time to review the books that I've read in the previous month. And this has been a good reading month for me. I read a total of 19 books, all of which are right here. And yeah, I set up a goal of reading 125 books this year. So in order to achieve that reading goal, I have to read approximately one book for every 3 days, and I'm really glad that I got a head start on things. So the very first book I read this year was Once Upon a Prince by Rachel Hawke, and it is the first book in the Royal Wedding series, even though I've seen the synopsis for the second one and it doesn't seem like they're connected, so I don't know what's up with that. But in any case, I won this book in a giveaway on Goodreads, and that was last summer. It's taken me a few months to finally read it, but I did. It is a contemporary book set on a little island off of Georgia. Well, basically, Once Upon a Prince is a romance, a classic romance. That's kind of the main point, the romance of it all. But it is also a book about self-discovery through faith. So, at the beginning of the book, the main character, Susanna, gets dumped by her longtime boyfriend, 12 years, and she's waited for him through several tours of him going to Afghanistan and all that stuff, and she's waiting for him to pop the question finally, and instead of popping the questions, he says that he found the right ring, the ring that he sees himself giving to the girl he would marry, but unfortunately she wasn't that girl, which, while very honest, is kinda rough. Yeah, she gets really angry at him, obviously. I mean, who wouldn't? But eventually realizes that, well, maybe she was with him all these years out of being comfortable with the situation, just kind of settling, and it's familiar and comfortable, so she never looked for anything else. And then there's another protagonist who is actually the crown prince of a small kingdom in Europe, and the little island is his vacation home, and basically he has visited it for the last time before he gets crowned because his father has fallen ill and things are not looking good. Basically, both of them have challenges that they need to deal with, and both of them try to find themselves, and also they can't deny the immediate connection that they have to each other. In the end, they rely on their fate to see them through their ordeal and show them their way. So yes, it is a romance, but it is also a novel about self-discovery and faith. And happily ever after, of course. After all, it is dubbed a modern fairy tale. The next book that I read is Wintertown by Stephen Edmund, and this is a book that I've had since June of last year, and the reason I got it was because, first of all, I don't know, the cover just seemed really intriguing. Also, it's kind of a mix of graphics and words, and I find that really fascinating. So I decided to pick it up, and I finally read it. It is the story of a boy and a girl who, again, it's a contemporary, and so this boy, his best friend in the whole wild world, her parents got divorced a while back when they were kids, so her mom moved away with her, and ever since, every winter she goes home to her father, so the boy and the girl get to spend the winter together, which is why it's Wintertown, because they stay together during wintertime. I don't know how to describe it, but basically it's their adventures in this newest year when she has changed outward. She looks like a completely different person from the person that he always knew, and at the same time he has grown into himself, so she sees him in a different way too. And basically the first half of the book is told through his point of view, and the second half of the book is told through her point of view, and it's really interesting to see how both of them react to each other in a way. I also like the occasional visuals because both of them have this thing where they draw graphics, and that's something that connects them to each other because they've always done that, and they have this world that they created when they were kids, so every time when something happens they always create adventure in that world, and it's really It's really, I want to say sweet, but I'm not sure it's exactly the word I'm looking for. But let's just use that word for now. It's a really sweet story and I really enjoyed it. Now the next book that I read is Sleepless by Sid Ballock, and it's a smaller book. It's a standalone. It's a different kind of mythology because I love my mythology when it's mixed in with the fantasy books that I read. And it's about the Sandman, and the main character is a Sandman, and it's just he gets attached to one of his charges, and she has had her fair share of tragic happening in her life, and her Sandman, our main character, has been with her through it all, even though she doesn't know it. And it's also told through two points of view. Wow, this whole month I've been reading things that have been told through multiple point of views. But anyway, so it's alternating chapters, like one chapter is him, one chapter is her, and I really enjoy that. It's it lets us get deeper into the story, in my opinion. And even though I did enjoy it, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I was even thinking of giving it 3 stars on Goodreads, but I ended up giving it 4. I mean, it's not uninteresting, it's just I was in a slumpy mood, I guess, when I was reading it. But in any case, it's definitely an intriguing and interesting story and a little bit of different mythology than the norm. After that, I read Angel Fall and World After by Susan E. And this is the first and the second book in the Penryn and the End of Days series, which is, I think, supposed to have a lot of books in it. So I'm very excited about that because I really enjoy this world. It's, again, it's different than the normal. Basically, this is no, it's not post-apocalyptic, it's during the apocalypse, where angels have fallen upon Earth and basically taken over, and it's a complete apocalypse. Everyone is fighting for survival, and the main characters is very a la Katniss Everdeen, as in she seems to be caring only about a few things. Firstly, saving her little sister. She has an antagonistic relationship with her mother, and she is a survivor. She fights for survival and she does everything she can in order to survive. And she is a strong character. Her mother, well, she has a mental illness, so when our main character Penryn was younger, her mother basically signed her up for absolutely every and any self-defense class she could find. She paid years and years ahead for all the classes, so Penryn can take care of herself. She's a kick-ass girl, she's strong, like I said, she's a survivor. And then, of course, there's a guy. But it's not a romance, so don't get me wrong. It's not a romantic thing, it's a survival thing. It's just a little romance thrown in. But anyway, so the guy, he's an angel. And he's actually an archangel, which in the hierarchy of angels is pretty high up. He is a well-known angel. Most people call him the Wrath of God because he is very kick-ass. So they meet at the very beginning of Angel Fall, and he gets his wings cut by the bad guys, but the bad angels, and she helps him because the bad ones kidnapped her sister, and she sees him as the only person who can help her find her sister and save her. So they form an uneasy alliance and travel together to the angels people's stronghold, and throughout they develop a close relationship, like a sort of friendship, because they have to save each other multiple times all the time. They have to rely on each other, and I mean that would form a bond with anyone, really, I think. And I really like her. I mean, she really is the kind of girl who can kick some serious butt, and it's not a random, the apocalypse came and she randomly started kicking everyone's butt. It's something that she has trained for years and years and years in self-defense classes and all of that. So I really like that is built into her rather than just randomly coming out of nowhere. So that is very awesome. Anyway, awesome series. Definitely give it a read. and I'm so looking forward to the next book, I can't even tell you. After that, I read Teardrop by Lauren Kate, which is the first book in the Teardrop series, trilogy. I'm not sure if it's a series or a trilogy, but in any case, our main character, whose name is Eureka, has a secret. She never cries, ever. And the thing is, and she doesn't know it until we get into this story, the thing is that if she cries, basically she will flood the world. Again, it's a mythology thing, which I can't really describe very well because for some reason I can't think of the proper words. But there's Atlantis involved and the mythology behind Atlantis, and basically the girls in her bloodline, some of the girls, not all of them, have this gene where they have the power to ruin the world. Like one of her predecessors was the one who cried and got Atlantis buried under sea, or buried? Swallowed by the sea. So that's what that is about, basically the mythology of it all. And there's also a guy. He's been watching her, stalking her, for basically all of her life, and she doesn't know it until the moment he decides to show himself, because he has fallen deeply in love with her. Like, he knows her better than anyone just because he has to, like, it was his job to basically watch her all her life. And yes, they are the same age, but he comes from a race that basically watches over the world and tries to save it from the girls with the tear gene thing. So it was his job to learn everything there is to know about her, and he can't help it, but he falls in love with her. And when she meets him, she has this instant connection, and she kind of falls for him too. And it's just, I don't know, it was interesting and intriguing, but it took me a while to read it. Like, it really didn't hold my attention very well, which, I mean, what are you gonna do? But it's definitely worth giving it a read. Wow, that was the weirdest review ever. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, so that's gotta count for something. And for the rest of the month, I was reading Sweep, the Sweep series by Kate Tiernan, and I ended up reading 13 of the 15 books and the half of the 14th, but I haven't finished it, so I don't have it here. Yeah, basically the first book is Book of Shadows, the second one is The Coven, the third one is Blood Witch, the fourth one is Dark Magic, the fifth one is Awakening, the sixth one is Spellbound, then The Calling and Changeling, then Strife and Seeker, Origins, Eclipse, and finally Reckoning. The 14th one, which I'm currently in the half of, is called Full Circle, and the 15th one is called Night's Child, and I haven't read those yet. I mean, I guess I have a book and a half left from the series to read. But anyway, this series I really enjoy it. It's about witchcraft, or Wicca, and it is... Now, for those of you who don't know, yes, I like my supernatural books and fantasy books, but Wicca is something that I also like very, very much to read. And this series is... like, there's a main protagonist, her name is Morgan, and she finds out that she is a blood witch. A blood witch is basically a real witch. It's in your blood, and for generations and generations and generations, everyone has been a blood witch. Whereas a regular witch is just someone who is interested in the craft and kind of learns how to do all the things, but they're not necessarily, like, they don't necessarily have powers. But anyway, so we have Morgan, who is the main protagonist, and the books are told through her point of view for the most part, and here and there we have other points of views, like the last few books are alternating point of views, like Morgan and someone else maybe. And also at the beginning of every chapter, except for book 14 and 15 I believe, there's an entry from a Book of Shadows of someone, and it's really interesting to figure out whose Book of Shadows we're reading. And it's always, I mean, that Book of Shadows is always connected to the main story in that particular book, even though the books are connected together and they lead up to one big thing eventually. But it's really interesting to see like who the Book of Shadows belongs to and how is it connected to the story in the book. And also each of the book, like all of them are about 200 pages, actually a little less than 200 pages, and all of them have like they're connected to each other, but at the same time like they're not very cliffhangy. I mean, some of them are, but not all of them. And the stories are like well rounded for those 200 pages or so. And it's really interesting. Basically, we start from Morgan discovering her powers and her going through. Basically, it doesn't stop. Like ever since she discovers that she's a blood witch, it doesn't stop. Things keep coming at her because she's just her bloodline. She's a very powerful witch, and she's basically a magical prodigy, and everyone wants a piece of her, and she has to fight them off and just find herself in the middle of all of it. And it's not an easy road, and she does the best she can. But it's really interesting to go with her on that journey, and all of the other characters to go with them and kind of see them. And also I like the different points of view, because it's really interesting to see how she sees other people, and then when we get in their head, how they see themselves, and at the same time how she sees herself, and then these other people, how they see her. Like for example, on the inside, Morgan is very insecure, and I mean, she's not very insecure, she's strong, but she has insecurities just like everybody else, and it's just her internal monologue is in such a way. And then when you look at her through someone else's point of view, she seems so calm and collected and like grown up almost, and it's just really interesting to see that, which is why I like multiple point of views, because you just get more of the story of everything. And I'm not gonna lie, at the beginning I thought that Morgan was a little self-absorbed, because usually when I read a book, I'm able to learn about the world and the people around that person without a problem. But with Morgan, it's like it took me a little longer to like get to know and get a feel about the people around her, because I don't know, I felt like she was ignoring important things about them, if that makes any sense. I just felt like she was a little self-absorbed, so I was not able to observe the world around her as well. But that is not to say that she's actually a pretty decent human being. If I say so myself, she may be a little misguided, and she isn't trained, because she didn't even know she was a blood witch until now. So this is something completely new to her, and it brings up issues and things like that she has to deal with. So it's not easy, but she finds her way through it all. And like I said, I haven't finished the series yet, so I don't know how it ends, but I have high hopes that it will be good. So these are all the books that I've read, all 19 of them, and I'm like 8 or 9 books ahead of schedule according to Goodreads, so that's good, because I know that sooner or later I will have a time when I will not be able to read as much, and it will be a good thing to be ahead of schedule then, because I mean, you know. So yeah, this is it for now. I'm sorry it was on the longer side, but since I haven't really done any individual reviews for the books that I read, I thought that I would do like mini reviews here, since I mean it is a monthly wrap-up, so why the hell not, you know? And that's what I've kind of been doing lately anyway. So yeah, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you soon, or you will see me soon. Bye.